the Craig Rochelle Leadership.
It's on YouTube. I can't lock my phone. It's
What I'm trying to do in these podcasts is I really want to honor your time. I'm going to do my best to bring content that adds value, but I'm not going to beat around the bush and say a lot of things that will take more time than is necessary. What I want to do is bring some real specific leadership thoughts that I hope will equip and inspire you as a leader. I love to learn from you. So if you've got great leadership articles, books, ideas, thoughts, if you say, Craig, you're crazy, and you want to correct me, if you want to ask questions, whatever you want to do, you can always email me at leadership@life.church. In fact, especially if you have questions, I would love to take those and answer a few of them on the different episodes. Just ask away at leadership@life.church. If you want to follow me on social media, I'd love to have you follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or also on Periscope. I do occasional little brief leadership teachings as well. Always love the live interaction of people on Periscope. We will be posting these in different places if it helps you to digest the content. They'll be on iTunes, on YouTube, on Life Church/Open. We'll be posting the show notes in different places as well. If you'd like to look at the notes, maybe go over them with your team. They'll be available at CraigRochelleBooks.com and wherever else we can put them, we'll make them available for you. Let me review what we covered last week. And again, I think it's even more helpful if you do have a team to process this with the team. You may listen to it and then kind of go over some questions or ideas together. But if you were with us on the last episode, we talked about 3 different types of leaders. Today, we're going to talk about 3 more. To review last week, just briefly, we talked about unpredictable leaders. You've all worked with somebody who's unpredictable. We're going to do this, now we're going to do this. We've got this new project, now we're going to release this product line, but this is going to work now. This is going to change everything. Oh my gosh, we're all sitting going, nothing has lasted more than 6 months. Unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. If you as a leader are always unpredictable, your people over time will become hesitant. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you're going to do. There's no consistency, and so therefore we don't know what to expect. We talked about the value of consistency. Successful people do consistently what normal people do occasionally. Working an average plan consistently is better than a great plan, than a bad plan, than a mediocre plan. We want to be consistent in our leadership. The second type of leader we talked about was the domineering leader. My way or the highway, this is the way it's going to be because I'm the boss and I said so. You know the type. Domineering leaders produce compliant followers. You may get compliance, but you're not going to get commitment. We want commitment. We want total buy-in. We don't want employees working for us. We want people with an ownership mindset serving the higher vision. And so we must work against being domineering. In order to keep from being domineering, the most valuable thing we can do is ask questions. What do you think? What ideas do you have? If you were in charge, what would you do? We're going to ask a lot of questions. We talked about secretive leaders. We all know organizations where people are really secretive. Well, you can't know this. This is only for us to know. The problem is secretive leaders produce guarded followers. They're guarded. When we're secretive, we're communicating that we don't trust them. If we don't trust them, we cannot expect them to trust us. One of the greatest ways to create vision buy-in in our organizations is to communicate information. Over-communicate, communicate, say it again. Communicate even things that you think people may not care about, because the more they know, the more they'll care. One of the greatest ways to create ownership in an organization is to communicate as much information as you can. You don't have to even know everything. Like, you can say, we're not even sure what to do about this, but here's the issues we're facing, here's the decisions we're trying to make, and suddenly you're creating some ownership and buy-in. Today, I want to talk about 3 different types of leaders, and the last one might be a little bit of a twist to what you expect to see coming. I want to talk about passive leaders, which we know is very frustrating if you've ever served a passive leader. I want to talk about number 5, healthy leaders. And then number 6, I want to talk about empowering leaders. Passive, healthy, and empowering. Let's talk about the fourth type for a moment, passive leaders. If you've worked for a passive leader, you know there are a few things that are more frustrating than working for someone who's passive. What does a passive leader produce? A passive leader produces disengaged followers. A passive leader produces disengaged followers. What happens with a passive leader? He or she might know about some issue, a challenge, a problem, but he or she doesn't do anything about it. So what's going on? Well, revenue might be down and the leader just doesn't even mention it. Or team morale might be flat, or worse yet, it might be very unhealthy. And so the leader just ignores it or doesn't even seem to notice. Everyone else goes, there's a problem, but the passive leader doesn't even acknowledge the problem exists, much less try to do anything about the problem. Team members may be at each other's throats. Have you ever been a part of that? Well, he said, she said, and they didn't, it was my idea, blah, 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 blah. The passive leader just doesn't address it, just kind of stands by the wayside and just kind of says, I hope this thing gets better. I hope they work it out. That's what a passive leader tends to do. The challenge is this: if you're a passive leader, if you're just hoping things get better, if you are conflict avoidant, if you don't work and dive into problems, when a leader doesn't address the problem is no longer the problem. The problem becomes the leader. Let me say it again. When a leader does not address the problem, the real problem is no longer that problem. The real problem is the leader. When you have a passive leader, here's what people think. Well, if my leader doesn't care enough to get involved in this, why should I? And they become disengaged. That's why passive leaders produce disengaged followers. If you find yourself being more passive right now, it might be because you're discouraged, might be because you feel overwhelmed, might be because you feel slightly helpless, might be because you don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you right now, you are the leader and you are the one capable of making changes. If you were not supposed to be the leader, I believe you'd be replaced as a leader. If you are the leader, it is your job. You are there because you are capable. You can make the changes. It's okay to admit, I don't know what to do. It's okay to admit, I'm not even sure what step to take next. Acknowledging the problem is the first step to overcoming passivity. Acknowledge, hey, there's an issue, there's a problem, start there. If you acknowledge the problem, people are more likely to respect it. At least you know there is a problem, even before you have a solution. And then I would just say, do something. When there's a problem, do something. Doing nothing is worse than doing something. Again, do any kind of plan. Start working a plan. Once there's forward momentum, it's easier to adjust a moving car than it is one that's sitting still. An average plan is better than no plan. Engage, or your staff will not. If you find yourself right now being more passive, engage. Even acknowledge there's a problem. You don't have to have the solution, but acknowledging it at least will let your team know that you care, because if you're passive, you're going to have a very disengaged organization, and over time, you will never succeed. Let's transition from the negative. We talked about 4 negative types of leaders: unpredictable, domineering, secretive, and passive. Let's talk about healthy leaders. And this really, really matters. When you serve a healthy leader, the organization gets better. There's forward movement. You've got financial growth. Your products succeed. Your ministry grows. Your nonprofit reaches people. It makes a difference. And the healthy leader is going to be the opposite of the 4 we talked about before. Instead of being unpredictable, the healthy leader is predictable. He or she has a plan. They have a vision. They have direction. They're constantly working on the culture. They're aligning values with the direction of the organization. There is alignment between the mission and what we're doing. Our actions line up with what we say that we believe. Instead of being unpredictable, the healthy leader has a plan, has a direction, has a vision. Instead of being domineering, the healthy leader listens. The healthy leader collaborates. The healthy leader has vision buy-in from those around him or her. The healthy leader says, what do you think? Hey, your opinion matters. Man, The healthy leader gives credit. The domineering leader wants to always take credit. The healthy leader listens, collaborates, and creates an ownership mindset in those that are serving on the team. The secretive leader never works, but a healthy leader is not secretive. A healthy leader is transparent. A healthy leader trusts. A healthy leader extends trust, but never demands trust. And a healthy leader is trustworthy, meaning I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. An unhealthy leader is passive. A healthy leader is active. A healthy leader knows the mission. A healthy leader is engaged. Again, a healthy leader doesn't have to know all the right answers, but at least they're acknowledging the right problems, okay? A healthy leader is engaged. A healthy leader produces faithful followers. And I will follow a healthy leader, and so will you. The more healthy you become, the more healthy your organization will become. That's why it's so important to take care of yourself. In fact, we'll probably do a future podcast on how do we stay healthy as a leader? How do we increase in our health as a leader? Because if someone is healthy, I'll give my best for that person. I'll sacrifice. I want to help them succeed. I want the organization to succeed. And if they're healthy as a leader, I'm more likely to be healthy as a follower. They don't have to be perfect, but I need to believe in them, and then I'll believe in the mission. Healthy leaders produce faithful followers. Now, we can stop right there, right? That's our goal, to be healthy leaders. I want to take a different category and say there's a step beyond a healthy leader, and that is what I would call an empowering leader, okay? An empowering leader. Now, what does a healthy leader produce? A healthy leader produces faithful followers. Emphasis on followers. Let me say it again. A healthy leader produces faithful followers. An empowering leader, though, produces other great leaders. And this is the key. Okay? This may seem small, but this is not small. Our goal is not to produce healthy followers. A leader's goal is to produce great leaders. Okay? What does an empowering leader do? An empowering leader does everything that a healthy leader does. We plan, we listen, we serve, we're transparent, we're active, we're healthy. But this leader is not just about the leader. This leader is not just about the organization. This leader is all about the people in the organization. And an empowering leader's goal is to give responsibility away. What I want to do as an empowering leader is I want to empower others to do more than I can do. I want complete, full-on ownership in the mission, in the organization, and the only way I'm going to get that is to give it away. Now, people often ask, how do you get and keep great staff members? Number one, I believe you don't just get them, you build them, okay? You don't go find them, you build them. The way you keep them is by giving them significant leadership responsibilities. If you just tell them to do what I tell you to do, they're going to be followers. If you give them the freedom to create, they're going to become amazing leaders. We're going to empower people. Now, how do we know if we're an empowering organization? Here's a real simple exercise that you can do with your team. It simply asks the question that goes something like this. How deep in our organization have we empowered people to say yes? How deep into our organization have we empowered people to say yes? What do I mean by that? It's really easy to say, no, we're not going to do that. No, that's not a good idea. In order to grow as an organization, we have to say no to a lot of things, but we have to say yes to the right things. Typically, in a regular organization, the ability to say yes to a new product launch, a new idea, a new campus, a new hire, typically that rests at the top of the organization. It might be with the CEO, the lead pastor, the head of the department. Who can say yes? In an empowering organization, an empowering leader pushes the ability to say yes deep into the organization. So not mid-level management, not even a step down below that, but those on the front line feel like they have the freedom to make decisions. We're empowered to please the customer. We're empowered to make change. We're empowered to make decisions. Ask yourself, how deep into your organization are people empowered to say yes? That will give you some insight into if you're an empowering leader or not. If very few people can say yes, at best, you're a healthy leader. More likely, you're unpredictable, domineering, secretive, or passive. If you have not empowered people deep into your organization to make decisions, to create change, to implement new ideas, to say yes, then you are not an empowering leader. The good news is, guess what? We all have an opportunity to grow and improve. Empowering leaders aren't trying to produce great followers. Empowering leaders are trying to produce great leaders. Remember that. Your role is not to create followers. Your role is to create leaders. So let's review and wrap this up. Unpredictable leaders produce hesitant followers. Domineering leaders produce compliant followers. Secretive leaders produce guarded followers. Passive leaders produce disengaged followers. If they don't care, why do I care? Healthy leaders produce faithful followers, but here's the key. Empowering leaders produce other great leaders. Now, how do we do that? How do we become an empowering leader? Very, very simply, just a few thoughts. I want to encourage you to lead yourself first. Lead yourself first. So often people want to become a leader of others before they become a leader themselves. Wherever you are, what disciplines are lacking in your life? How do you need to grow as a leader? What can you do to become sharper? Lead yourself first. Then you lead others. You lead others. You lead others. Then you lead yourself first. You lead others, and then what do? Then you lead leaders. You're not just leading people, but you're leading leaders. So we're done, right? I know how to lead myself. Okay, now, whoa, man, now I know how to lead other people. Now I know how to lead leaders. No, there's another step. Then you lead teams of leaders leading teams of leaders. That's what you do. How can a church that's all about people meet in 24 different locations in 7 states? Okay? I had to first start one location with 40 people, lead myself. Then I had to learn to lead other people, lead other people. It took time. It took probably 5 years for me to learn to develop other people, lead other people. Then I had to learn to lead leaders. Oh my gosh, I've got to let them do things I can't do. I've got to give them authority. I've got to delegate like crazy. I've got to trust them. I've got to let them make mistakes. I've got to let them grow. That's going to take time. Then one day, I'm not just leading leaders, but now I'm leading teams of leaders, the people that I may not have ever even met, but I trust and value with all my heart. Why? Because they are amazing leaders deep in the organization with the ability to say yes and further the mission that makes everybody better. So I'm going to lead others, lead leaders, and lead teams of others. And I'm not going to say, do what I do. I'm going to say, do things that I cannot do, and our whole organization is going to get better. I want to remind you to send questions to leadership@life.church if you enjoy this podcast.
That was so dang good. I'm excited. So he does a lot of 2-part series. So I mean, we'll probably just keep it going for a little bit. I like it. Hopefully you guys like it too. Okay, so did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about specifically, or no? No, cool. So I do want to talk a little bit about, I was thinking about this, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.